in usual senses of the discussion of poetry, it's assumed that the poet and or those involved with the poetry will, at least in the period in which I was in school, it was assumed that that there was a meaning to be extricated from the context of the writing, and that this was, after all, what the poem, quote, had to say, unquote. So that one was asked, therefore, to write a précis or to qualify the action of the various symbols present, and to remark the the levels of ambiguity, for example, as in Empson's sense, and so on and so forth. Well, now none of these agencies of engagement are per se wrong. I mean, anything that brings one into the modality that poetry is, I think, is useful. But anything that tends to either assume or insist that there's a point thus to be taken away, I mean, I think that's a very mistaken notion. And let me think if I can think of some quick way to demonstrate it. It would be, for example, like going swimming, wherein the situation of swimming was only admitted as some means of getting across a lake, for example. I mean, you went swimming in order to swim across the lake, and then having accomplished that, that was the end of swimming. I mean, in other words, I realized, for example, that in the usual teaching of reading and writing, especially I see it in my daughters now. They are all through their their elementary schooling. In reading, they were constantly asked to summarize the story, to tell what they had, what the story meant, and to that is, they were really insistently being asked to finish the story and say what it meant. They were rarely, if ever, asked to read, to be in the reading. Well, it would be like as though dancing were a means of moving from A to B, and that's all. As though dancing weren't a state of experience, not only with its own initiation and condition, but entirely in itself. As though you danced in order to get, to exercise your muscles, or to have. I mean, as though you had to dance for a purpose. Well, you do dance for a purpose, but the purpose is in the dancing, not in something you take out of the dancing. You are transformed in the dancing. As any one of you who have danced, really intensely know that you're taken out of yourself and you're transformed entirely by the dancing. But that too isn't the point of it. There isn't a point to dancing except to dance. There isn't a point to poetry, and I realize now that's the risk I've been worrying about all the time, and I've been, sort of almost flirting with the dangers of that. I've let myself fall into a kind of statement that's really getting dangerously close to saying that the purpose of poetry is the transformation that it creates. No, that's not it either. I want instantly to reject that it has a purpose. Poetry has no purpose.